In the last 1 or 2 weeks, hardly a day passes without people hearing about one deadly attack by the insurgent groups of Boko Haram or their franchises like Mahmuda or the Lakurawas that operate in the northwest and north central. Now, the issue is, does government really understand what is happening? Do we as a people actually know the intentions of this group and how things are happening? This is the other side. My name is Remande Shaulu. Last week, just before National Assembly resumed from its recess, and up to the time, and even after National Assembly resumed, we've had different types of attacks on the peoples of Nigeria by some of these insurgent groups. Borno State, Kwara and Niger, Yobe, the northwestern states of Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Katsina, and Kaduna have been affected. And of course, we have not forgotten that the Plateau State and Benue State are still undergoing severe attacks and crises that bring out very sad stories every day. Not to forget the fact that even in the South-South, the ISWAP has not relented in its campaign, and several governors of the Southwest and some people in the South-South are complaining that their forests are occupied by what they call stranger elements, who they claim it may actually be Boko Haram or other insurgent groups waiting to attack whenever the opportunities avail themselves. And of course, strangely, the South-South, where kidnapping started, appears to be the safest part of Nigeria today. At its resumption, especially in the House of Reps and also in the Senate, members who came from their constituencies were livid with anger and some very concerned that these insurgent groups had continued attacking and killing people in their various constituencies. And in the debates that ensued in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, we had members talking about presence of foreigners among insurgents, inadequate funding of the military, and corruption in the military, and the often repeated allegations that the military is not as well equipped as the insurgent groups that have been attacking the people of Nigeria. Of course, the Minister of Defense fired back. At a press conference that he addressed, the Minister of Defense, who is also the former governor of Jigawa State, one of the few states that has not been affected very badly by these insurgent groups, Alhaji Mohammed Badaro, came out to deny some of the allegations that were made against the military and the government on the floor of the National Assembly. One of the things he spoke about was the use of drones by these insurgent groups. What he said was just mere guerrilla tactics by informants of the insurgents. He also denied the allegations of members that the military is not as fully equipped as these insurgent groups. Well, I agree with the minister that it is not correct to say that these insurgent groups are more equipped than the Nigerian military. As a matter of fact, for those who know, the military that Nigeria had in 2012-2014 in terms of equipment is not the same military that we have in Nigeria today. For those who know Nigeria's history of fighting these insurgent groups, you will recall that as at that time, when President Goodluck Jonathan was in power, the Western world, led by the United States of America, refused to sell equipment to the Nigerian military. The Nigerian military were accused of violating the rights of people, and it was argued that you should not give arms to countries which use these arms to fight their citizens. And so Nigeria did not have arms. As a matter of fact, for those who know, the military authorities had to literally go to Eastern Europe with cap in hand, going through the disused or decommissioned equipment of Eastern Europe to bring some equipment to Nigeria to come to fight Boko Haram. And you will recall too that efforts by the government of President Goodluck Jonathan to secure weapons even from the black market were blocked by Nigerian politicians who decided to squeal on the government. And so the private jet that had been sent to South Africa to bring arms that were to be procured from the black market was seized. These arms did not come. But once President Donald J. Trump won elections in 2016, almost everything changed as far as the response of the government of United States to the fight against insurgency in Nigeria was concerned. The government decided to approve that Nigeria should procure some weapons. The Nigerian military actually got weapons, especially aircraft, from the United States. And of course, for those who also know, following the opening up of the space to purchase weapons, efforts were made by the Buhari government that took over from President Goodluck Jonathan to re-equip the military. And the military, therefore, that we have today is not the military that people spoke about when they said soldiers in the bushes were sharing or rationing bullets. And my opinion about the argument about the campaign that Nigerian military is not well equipped is the fact that that campaign or allegation by itself serves to discourage soldiers who are fighting in the war front. Secondly, it should be noted that these insurgent groups will be happy and always happy when people spread their propaganda that the people they are fighting with, that the forces they are confronting are not well equipped. And so continuing to argue that the military is not well equipped is not very correct and may be serving the interests of the terrorists and not the interests of Nigerians. Secondly, on the issue of funding of the military, a lot of things have been said about corruption in the military. And of course, we do know that as with every other sector of Nigeria's economy, it will be foolish to say that corruption does not exist. And we know that at least the former National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, has been facing trial for corruption. Several other military personnel have also been facing trials or queries for corrupt activities. And a lot of money or resources have been seized from former military personnel who may have used these funds wrongly in the past. Having said that, the fact too is that even if there were no corruption, it has been my view that the Nigerian military is underfunded, it's not well funded, it does not have enough equipment, and the personnel that constitute the Nigerian military is well too small for the size of Nigeria and the problems that confront Nigeria today. If you compare Nigerian military spending and equipment with countries who face similar conditions, you will see that there's a very big disparity with other countries that face the problems that Nigeria face. Which is why if you check closely, the countries that are most stable around the world are countries that spend heavily on their security. Because without security, the economy would not work. Without security, schools will not work. Without security, the business environment would be in problem. And so it is important that as we speak about corruption, we need to also speak about not just improving the accountability space within the Nigerian state system, especially the security agencies, but we must also advocate for recruitment of more people into the military services. Another point that the minister made, which I want to comment on, is the fact that he said so many of these terrorists have been killed. Indeed, so many of them have been killed Indeed, so many of them have been killed. Shekau, the first one that started, has been killed. Arbanawi too has been killed. Several of the top hierarchy of these insurgent groups have been killed. But the question still remains, why is it that when you kill one, 100 others appear? The fact of the matter, from my opinion, is that it does appear that the factories producing these terrorists are working at full blast. Until you shut down these factories, you cannot stop the recruitment of new people who are willing and are always ready to go and fight, even if they don't understand what they are fighting for. Another question that has come to my mind, which I've been trying to find answers to, is what is really our understanding of the problem that is facing Nigeria today? Government has several and different narratives for different areas. If it happens on the Plateau, or in Southern Kaduna, or in Benue State, you are likely going to hear government officials say that it is farmers' herders' fight. And even the president, the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, told a delegation of Benue political chieftains who visited him to ask for his help that the people of Benue should go back and learn how to live with their brothers. If these things happen, if this terrorist attack in the northwest, you hear government talk about bandits, kidnappers. If attacks take place in parts of the northeast, you hear that it is Boko Haram. Of course, things appear to be changing. Now we do know that the Mahmuda group, which operates in Niger and Kwara State, is actually a franchise of the Boko Haram. And we do know that many of the operatives of the so-called camps of the bandits or kidnappers in the northwest are actually confessed members of the Boko Haram. And we do know, or we've had stories, read too in the news, that ISWAP, the group that has publicly stated that its intention is to create a caliphate in Nigeria, is planning or is working on setting up camps on the Plateau. And so if ISWAP is working on plans to set up camp on the Plateau, in Plateau State, how do we know that ISWAP is not the same group that has cleansed out over 100 villages and settlements in Kaduna State, which borders Abuja, the capital of Nigeria? Of course, you also hear a narrative that it is poverty, it is lack of education, it is unemployed youths who are engaged in these activities. But the question I've asked some people somewhere is, if this were the case, then where would you not have the same crisis in Ebonyi and other states, or Bayelsa, where the rate of poverty is also very high, and the rate of unemployment is also very high? One of my worries about the whole situation is that the government is refusing to link what is happening in Nigeria to the convulsion and the crisis taking place in the Sahel, the crisis that have almost consumed the states of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. These groups operating in the Sahel, that is Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso, and Niger, are groups that profess the same ideologies with the groups that are operating in Nigeria. Several of the videos that have been published by these groups on social media speak clearly to the fact that they share the same ideologies. Secondly, these groups have ethnic and religious affinities with the groups that are operating in the Sahel. Thirdly, these groups have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. And again, these groups operate in the same manner that the groups in the Sahel operate. They heartlessly kill people, they do wanton destruction, and then they impose themselves and set up alternative governments in the areas that they operate, asking people to pay taxes, setting up courts, and becoming the de facto governments in the areas that they operate. And it is worrying that the government, not just this government, even the past governments, are not paying attention to what these groups are saying. It is not the business of government to disbelieve what these groups are saying. It is the business of government to take cognizance of what they are saying and to read it that these groups mean what they are saying. And finally, the question that comes to mind, and which I think I have a disagreement with the Minister of Defense, is his simply waiving off the use of the unmanned area vehicles, that is drones, that have been used by these terrorists. I want to assure the Honorable Minister that drones of whatever capacity, even the toy drones, can be turned to weapons. And the process of turning them to weapons is very simple. And these terrorist groups, from what they have done so far, have the ability to turn these drones into weapons. And so there is need for us as a people to really come round to discuss what is happening to our country. What are these groups doing? What are their intentions? Do we look at them the way we've been looking at them, or we change and look at them properly and take what they are saying they want to do very seriously? This is the other side. My name is Rumande Shawulu. Please share our video, subscribe to this channel, and if you are living in Jalingo, please remember to tune in to Rock FM in Jalingo to listen into our podcast. You can also listen to our podcast if you go to indea.live. You listen to music and hear all our podcasts.